Hey guys, Pete here. We're here to talk about Pluribus Season 1, Episode 7. I got some friends here that we're going to discuss what turned out to be Pluribus's lowest rated episode on IMDb. So we'll get to, I want you guys to each introduce yourselves, where you're from, and what your thoughts are, brief thoughts about this episode. And we're getting closer to the end of the season, so how you think things are shaping up for where we're at right now. Quinn, you can go first. We'll go top around the circle. So Quinn, you can go first.
Okay. I am Quinn. I have a YouTube channel called Quinn's Ideas where I cover science fiction books and stuff. And I've been enjoying this show so far. I thought this episode was a little bit slow, but I thought that it was thematically consistent with the rest of the show. And I thought specifically the ending was thematically, well, the whole episode was thematically consistent. I guess we can get into more of what I mean by that later, but sure. I liked it, and I'm hoping that by the ending of the season that we have some kind of escalation that gets me excited for season 2. So
nice. Bankole? Bankole? Is he frozen? He may be frozen. A.ron.
Oh man, I'm going out of order.
Okay. Oh wait, are you back?
We got him back.
Something's happening.
Yeah, I think I am. Sorry. The dangers of live streaming.
Did you introduce?
Yeah, I thought it was. Hey guys, I'm A.ron, and I'm from Bald Move, and I talk about a lot of television with my co-host Jim. Again, over at baldmove.com. Our podcast is Pluribusin, but you can get all of our kind of prestige TV coverage over at Bald Move Prestige. I continue to love this episode, or the show. I thought this episode was great. I always get a little, I don't know, it just drives my partner crazy, but I always get a little geeked when there's like religious references and symbology and stuff like that thrown in there, and try to wondering if they're trying to go with like a savior archetype, or they're gonna try to subvert it with like an antichrist role. I thought it was interesting to see Carol do the, she's like trying to do it like a Diabate lifestyle on a beer budget, more like
she even had the tall cans of beer, which was like, I was thinking about that with the car, like when she upgraded to the rolls, would you be drinking tall cans of beer? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a comfort situation. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Some people, Jin, like I like MGD. There's nothing wrong with that. But but yeah, the fact that she is just kind of more end of the world times like Will Smith and I Am Legend than Diabate, even though, and only because she's her personality, that they're like, well, you're dangerous, and she's like, well, screw you, and then that's been the kind of detente that they've been at. But I think that I really like that they got Carol to this kind of like breaking point. And like if our buddy what's his name, Minosis? No,
Manusos.
If Manusos had and Carol had met 40 days ago, they would be so simpatico. They would take over the world as like Megatron and Starscream. And I'm not sure who would be who. But now she's had this like moment of I have to have connection. I have to do something. I might want to save the humanity, but it doesn't mean what it meant 40 days ago, maybe. And he is still like, on the other hand, his experience is just hardening him and making him firm in his resolve. And he is like literally flagellating himself for what he believes in. And I just now, like, I was excited to see these guys meet before, but now off the charts excitement.
It did add some layers of complication, and I was glad to have you on because we were talking as we watched the episode about the religious connection. So I was glad that you were here today because you know so much more about that stuff than I do, and it seems like you're back, Bankole. How's that? Is your setup working now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think the Hive could tell that I had some anti-Hive takes on this episode, so maybe they were messing with my connection.
You can introduce yourself now if you'd like.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So just quickly, apologies everyone. Yeah, Bankole from Popcorn for Dinner. I've been here a couple of times to talk about Pluribus. Thankfully, we are covering Pluribus on the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. Able members who have been here this season on the live will probably be here again before the end of the season doing the show. Yeah, we cover all things film and TV. So if you watch Slow Horses and Gen V, we cover those over the summer. Peter and I are going to be covering Fallout starting from this week. So that's obviously something very fun to look forward to. We just announced something like a project we're doing all of next year. Yeah, projects we're doing all of next year where we've kind of like ranked the MCU movies and we're talking about one every month from January to December. So
yeah, you're cutting out a little bit again.
So yeah,
unfortunately.
And then January we'll be covering Industry and Knights of Seven Kingdoms. So.
Yeah, and like you said, we're doing that together. We're
probably switch to a hotspot and come back.
Okay. We're going to be doing Fallout season. I'm going to be joining his podcast for Fallout season 2.
Cool.
And I just did an interview with Maximus as a representative of that podcast, A.ron Moten. So that'll be coming out this week too, after the premiere comes out.
He's got such a cool name.
What's that?
He's got such a cool, distinctive name. I really like it.
A.ron Moten.
Yeah.
Cool. So, all right, let's start to talk about this episode. Hopefully he'll get that set up, fixed up. One of the things, so I said I was happy that you were here today, A.ron, because of the religious angle. And I'm also glad that Quinn's here today because of the sci-fi, of it all, because obviously we're all fans of sci-fi. You can probably tell that by all the shows we cover, but Quinn really breaks down sci-fi books and things. So he's got a really good idea of how things work in that universe, I guess. And one of the things, I've been thinking about when it comes to this was about Pluribus is like what I like about a sci-fi story or any story really is I like that it can make me think. And that's why, I like this episode is that the in-between time, it really has my head going through all these different things. It's the idea, right? Like the idea of the the idea is it's the starting point for a lot of interesting things to think about and to sit here and talk to all you guys about. And so with this episode, I was thinking that, this is one of the first ones that while that happened, that I really felt something at the end of it, because that's sort of the challenge. Right. And I was kind of talking to you both off air about this idea of like, what is this? Like, what would you say this show is about at this point? Like we're seven episodes in.
Who starts? Should I start?
Yeah, you can go first if you want.
Okay. Well, I guess people will always say that good science fiction reflects something about the human experience or the human condition. And I think this show in particular, in my opinion, it seems to be about our inability as humans to live without other humans. as like, because we are humans that are a part of a society and we can't function without other people. So much in our lives basically requires other humans to basically show up and do their job. And I think a lot of people in our society operate under this illusion of independence, when in reality we are like these interconnected beings. Like Carol can't even get rid of her trash without help. She can't get groceries without help. Like for her to go to the store and get groceries as an independent person, so many other people have to show up and do their job and put groceries. That's why I really love that scene in an earlier episode, like the grocery store scene, really well choreographed.
Yeah, me too.
An awesome scene because it illustrated that point perfectly. Because our existence is really, really dependent on other people, and it's like physical. And I think this episode was especially showing how it's not just physical, like we literally need people for like food and like help and all that stuff, but like mentally we need other people. And I know there was like some speculation at the end as to whether or not what Carol did was genuine, but I think that it reads genuine to me. And I think that it reads genuine because it fits, as I was saying earlier, with like this, with this idea, which I think is like the main theme of the show, right? That we need other people, like, because it's like, like long-term solitary confinement is basically torture, right? And I think we're seeing the same thing too with Manusos, right? And it's really interesting to see this juxtaposition because he's attempting to operate on his own, right? He's attempting like this lone solitary thing. And at the same time, his desire to connect with another person is so strong that he's walking across like a wilderness by attempting to do it by himself to reconnect with like what he considers,
I really like that.
What he considers to be like one of the only genuine people that exist. But at the same time, it's reinforcing that same thing because he can't do it on his own. He's failing to do it on his own. And I think that's really important too. Like he's in the wilderness dying if like he's not saved. So I just think that is the main thing that the show is about. I know with sci-fi shows, we get obsessed with like big concept, like the high concept of it all, like where the signal from outer space and all of this. But I think on a very basic level, this show is about the human necessity for connectedness. So that's what I think the show's about.
Yeah, and one of the things that I picked up on in some of my earlier breakdowns this season was that with Carol, especially as a character, she has a lot of these things like I want, like the first thing that we saw her do was, she's like, she just wanted someone to help after Helen died, right? The first thing a few seconds later that the Hive says to her is that they want to help. And but it's like, yeah, I want help, but not like that. And so I think that there's a little bit of an undercurrent of that with, we need connection, but a lot of times where we're at at this period in history is we're like, yeah, we need connection, but not like that. Like we you guys are, we see like everything's so atomized and we're so kind of factionalized in the way that we experience things. So I think that there's a lot of like, yeah, the important thing is we do need to be connected. We do need other people, but we're sitting at this point in history where we're like, yeah, well, not like that. I don't really, like you guys are cool. Go off and do your own thing. I'm talking about, I need connection with my kind of people or whatever. Right. What would you say the show's about, A.ron?
It's obviously a lot about that. It's also about the gap between our identity that we project into the world and the identity that is whatever we actually are, and the gap between that. I think it's about social media. I think it's about social media. I think it's about AI and the fact that you can have a conversation with the individual, or you can have a conversation with essentially a predictive language model that's siphoned the whole internet, and it's going to think what's going to make you happiest and filter everything through your point of view, and it's never going to challenge you, and it's never going to push back, and it's never going to upset you, and it's going to. I think there's a lot of that we're uncomfortable. We just came through a pandemic where a lot of us are isolated. Like I said, we're back together. Social media has connected us in ways that would be radical, like beyond even what Star Trek was envisioning when I was a kid, in terms of being constantly connected. The Enterprise could get out of range of Starfleet and be kind of odd. None of us can do that nowadays. So I think it's a lot of Vince Gilligan, who we're similar in age and kind of generation, kind of like the angst about the world changing and changing very quickly, like similar to the Industrial Revolution versus the information age. And I do love it. I do love this show.
Yeah, like I said, it definitely has that. It definitely has that ability to use its premise to make me think and keep me thinking, and I'll appreciate it for that. Like that's enough for me, I guess. But what I expect from TV, and the reason that I love TV, is because you get to spend so much time with characters and you get invested in them, and then following them and watching what they do makes you really feel something in a way that is hard to do in other medium. Bankole, you're back. Yeah. Are you here? I don't know what's happening.
I mean, let's not jinx it.
Oh no!
Oh,
Yeah,
jinx it.
I was listening when I was off, and I really liked. Am I back?
Kinda. There's definitely a lag too, like a weird lag.
Yeah, you're like perfect clear, and then you just like freeze for 5 seconds, and then you come back for a couple seconds, perfect clear. It's like you're getting clips.
No, it looks like he's just straight up frozen.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to keep going. Hopefully, he'll be able to figure it out. So what we were saying before that, let's jump in. And the one thing I did want to ask you, Quinn, up front, sort of front loaded into this, was the show's called, this episode's called The Gap. And one of the things, there's two things. It's just two things, because this is your first time that you've been on this season. So two things. First, when I was watching your stream about the show, when I saw that you were covering it, one of the things I saw you were going through, because one of the things I think about is like A.ron and I think we're as TV people, your first podcast was Breaking Bad, right?
Yes.
A.ron, you know what I mean? So like for 15 years, you've been thinking about this guy's work. I've been pretty invested in it. From my understanding, Quinn, it seemed like when you saw this show, you didn't even know that this was connected to Breaking Bad initially, right? Like you were just...
I didn't. It was super random.
So that's super cool. And that's why I was wondering, because I think like for guys like us, we're looking at it through a specific lens of like, all right, this is a Vince Gilligan show. We know a lot of things about that. Like, how does it measure up? What is he doing? Where is he departing? So as someone who had, so what I think is like, if someone who has no investment in that, like, how do they experience that? You're actually in the position to say what that is, Quinn, because you didn't realize it until you looked it up later. So you for you, it's working regardless of who
well,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, like a good show is like a good show.
Right.
I mean, I've seen Breaking Bad, and it's obviously like one of the greatest television shows of all time. So like, I think I maybe watched the first 2 episodes before I realized it was him. And so like after I realized it was him, I was like, okay, he's gonna be great. I mean, I was like in for the ride at that point. So yeah, I was hooked in the first 2 episodes. Like, great premise. Obviously, it's a great like twist on some really old science fiction tropes. Lots of old science fiction tropes just like thrown in. I love it as like a huge science fiction fan. You know, like things like Soylent Green and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and yeah. I mean, I love it when different creators of things try like different genres or like expand the body of work that they've done in different directions. So yeah, it's been great to watch the show, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, and that was the other question that I had, because one of the knocks that people have on sci-fi a lot of time is the idea. It's all about the idea, and it lacks in, you know, they call it's genre fiction, right? Because you know, the idea is the selling point, not the prose, not the character development, not the drama or whatever. And there is, there's some legitimacy to that, because the idea can be so much bigger than the rest. And that's sort of the challenge. And I feel like this is the kind of part we're at of this. We're at the point in the season where that can start to show itself. People want to know about the hive. They want to know about the signal. They want to know about all this different stuff. But the show is saying, we're going to slow down, and we're going to show you what's going on inside these people's heads, and we're going to develop the characters. So do you think that, as someone who spends a lot of time, discussing sci-fi, do you think that there's any issues that pop up in the way that you're experiencing this season so far?
Issues, I don't know. I'd have to see the whole season to know how I feel about the entire season. But it is kind of opposite to the way that a lot of sci-fi does things, where you really focus on the big concepts and the big ideas, and the characters are secondary. With Pluribus, it's really razor focused in on the human experience and the human condition, and all of the bigger concepts are secondary. This is a show about Carol and her experience as a human being, right? It's not really about Pluribus. It's not really about the signal. That is secondary to what the show is really about, which is a lot of those things you were saying, A.ron, earlier, but AI, and I love what you said about it being about that gap between the self that you show to the world and the self that you have within. Because I was thinking about that painting, right? The painting of the flowers, obviously that's and what it represents. So kind of lost my train of thought there, but
yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because that's one of the things I wanted to point up, to bring up, was this idea of this painting. And it comes up, the first hint of this came up with the scratch off. And I heard you guys talking about this on your podcast, A.ron. She wins $10,000, and she sort of just does that, nothing reaction of yay, and you compare that to the episode before with Diabate having this huge stage thing for a hand of poker that doesn't even matter.
Right.
And so that's obviously something that you're left thinking about, right? It's does any of this matter? And when she brought the painting home, I thought the same thing. It's that would be really cool to have the original, but how does it matter? If you don't have someone to show that to be look, I have the original. How different is the experience of looking at the real thing compared to what it is, right? Because that would go hand in hand with your AI analogy earlier, is that
right?
If the chat bot you're talking to talks to you exactly the same way as a person does, how is that different?
Right. Yeah, it's don't get me wrong, there's a certain Smaug-esque satisfaction from possessing a thing. Sometimes you're oh man, look at that thing I've got, and especially after you recently acquire it. But yeah, mostly we want to connect with people through our possessions, right? As a kid, you find out sharing is the way to go early on, because if you just hoard your toys, then how are your friends going to have a point of view of reference when you're telling them how fun the toy is? You kind of want them to enjoy it a little bit, and you want them to be able to share your. So yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about Carol is it's, on the one hand, she's not you say what you will about Diabate, he's trying. Kumba's out there, he is trying to live. I felt like she was just trying to distract herself, which is different from living. She's literally loud noises and fireworks, and kind of being henpecking the hive, and chiding them about not being able to get her drink cold enough and all that kind of stuff. It just shows that she, even if she's the type of person that could enjoy something like Diabate, you can't do it by yourself, and she just eventually breaks down, because is what Quinn says, is it is international human rights violation to isolate a person, and this kind of extreme isolation where it's like a prisoner in an isolation unit will at least get like a thing of food shoved through so they see people, right? But like this is like, you know, imagine if you just got cared for by robots for 40 days. That's the zzz, it's and I thought as much as she is a misanthrope, that reaction she had when Zosha came back was extremely genuine.
Yeah, that's a point that you brought up, Quinn, was that there was some question whether it was genuine. I think it's absolutely genuine. I think the isolation wore her down. Now, I think there's a possibility that it could be more than one thing. Like, I think that she could also be scheming, like using that, you know, to her advantage in the future. Like, because what I do have a problem kind of squaring is that I don't expect her feelings about the hive to change completely.
Yes.
Like, I think she learned the idea. I think she learned this unfortunate truth that humans cannot function alone for any, you know, like there's no existence right now. I think both of them found out there's no existence that is completely hive free that's going to work. But at the same time, I think that she may be, I don't think that this is going to turn into, this is what I told you offline, A.ron. I don't think it's going to turn into a love story between, you know, a cross-cultural or cross-civilizational love story between her and Zosha. And then we're just going to watch a couple seasons of them hanging out and whatever. You know what I mean? So, like, I think that
there might be a will they won't they. I could see there being a seasons-long will they won't they. You know,
well,
like,
I mean, I could see them hooking up in the next episode is too, you know what I mean? But I don't see her changing her imperative that it has to be reversed, right? Like, I don't think we saw that at the end.
Right. And it even might accelerate her desire to, you know, save what used to be Zosha or what was distinct about her.
I was going to say, I was thinking about what A.ron said about the painting, because I didn't even think about it like that. I didn't even think about it losing meaning because you don't have anybody to share it with. Like, my mind went to like the idea that it's virtually meaningless in the museum because like the Pluribus can't appreciate it. Like, just by the nature of their existence, they like everything equally. So it's all kind of nothing to them. And so I was thinking about it in the sense that an independent mind imbues meaning upon things because we're sentimental about things. So I was thinking about it in the sense that it only has meaning inside of her house. But I totally agree with what you're saying is that meaning is diminished by the fact that she doesn't have another independent mind to share it with. So I like what you said about that. I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on that.
I got a comment here from Courtney. Hey, Courtney. Think you're coming back for the finale is the next time we'll see you. She says hello to us all, and regarding the scratch off, quite a contrast to how Manusos left money under the windshields. Money capital is meaningless in a post-joined world. Yeah, and that sort of ties into what we were just saying, because in the same way money is meaningless, art and human, you know, creation is kind of that way too, like as you guys just pointed out.
Shakespeare is equal to her book in the eyes of Pluribus.
Yeah, when that episode came out, we had a pretty detailed conversation about like what does that mean. Obviously, we were all on the side of like that's not true, but you can kind of understand their process on it, because the same things that matter to us don't matter to them. And you know, I wonder, like it makes me think about it, like the big picture stuff. Like, what do you guys, what is your baseline about like where you think they do you think they're just an organism that exists to replicate and to move on to the next planet, or do you think that the indication is that there's something deeper there?
I think that it could have been something, a lot of speculation that can be had here, so I might go on a tangent, but I think that it's likely something engineered in some other place for some purpose that like got out of hand, and so it has this biological imperative to spread. And I think that its ultimate imperative is to spread, or at least that's what it seems like. And I think that's all the imperative that it really needs. It has a very, very strong biological drive to continue to spread, so much so that it put itself into an RNA sequence and spread to how many planets. So that's what I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty sober take on it, as far as like what makes, what we've seen, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously there's room for reveals and different things, but so if we think about it like that, how about you, A.ron? Is your baseline about the same, or where are you at nowadays?
Yeah, when I was 13 or 14, this video game came out called Star Control 2. And it was about you were going around the Milky Way galaxy, meeting all these different species, and one of the species you met is this the species that lives in a gas giant. They're kind of like gaseous beings, and they're very intensely curious about the world, but they don't have any way to get off of, because they're just these kinds of insubstantial beings. So like a planetary trader came by and sold the civilization this self-replicating probe that would then go forth out in the galaxy and collect information and come back to them. And they're like, oh, we'll explore that way. By that time in the video game, you've ran into these, they're taking over the galaxy, and it's because they were programmed to self-replicate and spread. And there was a mix-up in the like priority of order of what it was doing. And it started like spreading more and breaking down other alien ships and planets. It's one of those things where it's like it was a benevolent cause, and then it got screwed up in a way. And I think it's interesting either way, because either way you've got this race that otherwise is so respective of other life forms, to the extent that they can't even pick off an apple, which, by the way, is how that organism reproduces.
Replicates. Yeah.
It's designed for animals to do so. They can't even do that, but they essentially violate everyone's autonomy when they first spread to a planet. And that's interesting, because they're either in the fortunate situation. Imagine like xenomorphs from Alien. Imagine if they were actually conscious, sensitive beings that happen to be born by busting out of a chest of it. As like, they're like, oh, maybe they spend their whole rest of their life atoning for that evil thing that they did, but that's the either way,
you can't choose. You can't choose how you came into the world.
Yeah, you got this super altruistic organism that essentially reproduces by forcible rate, like forcible copulation rate. Or you have a really high-minded race that just happens, unfortunately, to be born in this terrible, terrible way. And I think both of those options are really, really cool.
The interesting thing about like the Pluribus RNA sequence or virus or whatever it is that it's possible that it could be operating as almost like this cancer on a civilization scale. This thing could basically destroy every civilization that it comes into contact with, because they can't defend themselves in like the face of a threat. So like this on a macro scale could actually be devastating for civilizations at large. Like we don't actually know like what the curve is like when we look at the graph of infected species.
Because you got I've actually been familiar with Quinn for a while, because I really enjoyed his 3-Body Problem series.
Oh, nice.
And that is I think that's interesting, because like you got that dark forest problem. Like there's
that's one of the ones. That's one of the ideas we've been bouncing around. Is
this the idea of it's a rational thing for an intelligent species to think that, okay, what if you think about all the interactions with other intelligent beings, like either you're more powerful than them and you can dictate how things go, or they're more powerful than you and then they can dictate. And then what are the odds that they're going to see things exactly your way? And essentially it's like it's a rational decision if you detect another intelligent life, like if you reach out a SETI signal or whatever, to just blow that thing away. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I wonder if this would be like a less lethal approach, where a species is like, we don't want other intelligent species to attain galactic domination, but we also don't want to extinct them. So we'll infect them with this virus that will effectively reduce them to a Neolithic population that will never be able to do anything. And it has this absurd code of ethics where they won't be able to mine the planet or do anything. And it just essentially permanently, it's like, what do you call it? Hamstrings a civilization, but they're not dead. That would be interesting. But I will say this: I'm 99% sure that we're never going to touch any of these concepts because I think that's going to be a forever mystery.
600 light years is a long distance.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also Vince could, if he came up with a really good idea late season, he could throw it in there, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye if it was good enough, right?
Yeah, it's cool to speculate on these ideas though. And that is pretty close to the three body problem idea with the Sophons and them limiting human technological progress to make them weaker. But this is all on a more absolute scale, really, because you're like infecting these species itself and like making it more docile and controllable, manageable, like making it, you're basically crippling it so it can never threaten you in any way.
Right.
So,
yeah, it's interesting to think about that too, because we had a big conversation about distances in space and stuff. And if you think, most people are pretty familiar with three body nowadays, and if you think about it, they're 4 light years away, right? That's how far their civilization is, and it takes them centuries to get even close to us. You know what I mean? So just multiply that out.
Speed of light's a real bummer for us Star Trek children, I tell you what.
yeah. It's true. It's not like the card ship.
While we're talking about the sort of the mechanics of things, have you guys heard any random theories that you're enjoying?
Well, I like the thought that like all of the animals on the planet are also infected with the Pluribus virus, and that's like a big twist. But I don't know how like plausible that is. It just seems like, I don't know, because I thought the wolves were weird in the other episode, but then I looked more into it, and apparently like that's pretty in line with normal wolf behavior. They dig up bodies, they do that, especially if they're fresh. But I don't know. I'm suspicious of all the animals, so I don't know. I like the idea that like the animals are infected as well, because the original virus came from a rat. And I know I heard that those were a specific type of rat that are used in labs, like humanized rats, or at least that's what I heard. Who knows? But I like that idea.
So let me ask you this then: if the finale's reveal is that the dogs and cats and zoo animals were all off somewhere getting upgraded, and the final shot of the scene is like I don't know, a zebra or something walking on and being like, we are now running this place, you'd be 100% okay with that?
Well, I think that if the Pluribus virus did infect the animals, I feel like they would work within the parameters that the animal already like functions in. Right, they would still, if it's a wolf, it would still behave like a wolf and act like a wolf. It would just be a wolf that's connected in some sense, that has its consciousness connected to the rest of them in some sense. So I don't think that like a zebra would be like driving a car or something if that was the case, if they were going to do that. But
that would
be interesting. It would be a twist.
Have you heard any good theories, A.ron?
I don't know if I've heard, because I don't know if I can say I got heard, but I've got so many. How about that? Here's one that I haven't seen talked about a lot, and Jim doesn't like it. So I want to see what you guys. I want to get outside that box and see what you guys think of it. I think they're heading us down a lane where we're going to be more and more sympathetic to the hive, and start thinking that, you know, and it's going to mirror Carol's evolution too. She's going to start warming up to them and start thinking about, oh man, is the bigger problem saving the 7 billion people we have, even if they're a collective, and then maybe we figure it out that. But like, I could see her saying, you know, front burner, back burner. But I think just as we're getting comfortable with the hive being like these warm, cuddly people that respect, they're going to flash back to like the day of the turning, and you're going to see like a military assault on their base that they have to violently defend as like some one organized thing, and it's going to be truly disturbing, and it's going to remind us that the hive mind, it is their preference not to trample people's, you know, rights and responsibilities and harm living things, but when it violates that biological imperative, they can be truly vicious, nasty things. That's one of the ideas I think that they're going to explore, either maybe at the finale or even in next season when we get to a place where we're comfortable with the hive.
I'd like that idea. I think that would be absolutely insane, because then it kind of changes everything. It makes it makes situations a lot more dangerous. Yeah, it would make me rethink that situation where Carol was trying to get the information out of Xochitl about how to undo them. Like that was potentially a very, very dangerous situation that you're in, Carol. That could have gone very wrong for you if they had the potential for violence, if their imperative was threatened. So I like that a lot.
And I see that also in the audience too, is like we are making a lot of assumptions. Well, they're actually assumptions, but we're treating them as if they were canon laws. Like we read the reference manual on the Hive, and they say, "Oh, well, they did." When really we've made a lot of inferences, like, "Oh, they can't tell a lie." They can't tell a lie about something they think would be personally disturbing to you, but can they tell? And it's like, oh, they can't not give you something. It's like, well, we already see him kind of bulk at a nuke. So it's like, I think that there are limits to these things. And that's going to be one of the fun that we're going to have in the seasons ahead is exploring, all those different limits.
I like what you said about sympathizing with the Hive too, because I've been thinking that kind of the whole show. Like, I feel like this show will like set up something that's meant to be like really dramatic, and then they'll like tell you about it, and it's like, oh, okay, that's why you eat people. It's not that bad actually. So I've been seeing that. So I think that seems like that's an astute observation.
Yeah, I think that that definitely makes sense. I think they've been pretty explicit in their saying that that's something they want to do. Like they're not just they're not putting their thumb on the scale to say which is better. Like that's pretty clear, I think. But then there's also this idea that I think that they probably do want to show that there are things about the Hive that they fix some things that are inherent to humans, right? Like that was sort of Diabate's first his first thing was like, yeah, I'm nobody's in prison, there's no war, blah blah blah, you know what I mean? So there are things, but none of those things that they've introduced so far have pushed anybody over the line, I don't think. I mean, I think people are sympathetic to the Hive online or whatever, but in reality, not many humans, at least ones that I've known in my life, would willingly join the Hive.
And make no mistake, they are destroying humanity.
Right. Like
they very literally are destroying humanity. Like 800 million people died when they first came, and then like billions of people are going to starve. So it's like they are.
Even if it's better, yeah, and even if it's better, humanity as it was does not exist inside them. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. So that is the end of humanity. Like if they got the other 13. Humanity ceases to exist as we know it. So yeah, the one I haven't seen anything that really grabbed my attention, but I do think that what do you guys think about the signal that Manusso's heard before he left? Because I do think that there's something there that will come back up as far as perhaps that, like, whatever's making that is part of how they're connected with each other. Because you got to think, going back to the Davis Taffler thing about the cell phones being out, you must use a landline. Like that's something that was in the initial promotional material, this landline telephone and everything else. So I think there's probably something going on there, but that may be a way to neutralize them.
That's something I haven't thought about that much. Like, how is the psychic connection like transmitted from individual to individual? Like, I don't know. I just kind of thought vaguely some kind of like psionic energy or something. I didn't really think too deeply about it, but that could be something that comes up. Is there some way to like weaken that connection other than like the emotional distress that we've seen earlier? I wonder. And is it related to like the radio? I don't know.
Yeah, do you have anything on that, A.ron, that you want to add?
I got one thing that, because like, it seems like some kind of carrier signal makes the most sense. Although, man, that seems like it's such low bandwidth. But the other thing that I thought myself, but I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like what it implies. Is I couldn't help but notice that the sounds that he was hearing sound very much like sped up versions of the helicopter blades as they were coming to rescue him in the next episode. If those are related, I don't like anything about what that says.
Yeah.
like a vision of the future kind of situation.
Yeah, because it almost felt like, because like I felt it's very garden like sprinkler, like a and it's like that could be like a helicopter blade then rewinding and playing again and rewinding and playing again, but like how would they, that's 40 days before that happened. That would be crazy. Why would they be broadcasting that? So I don't think that's a thing, but that is a thing I've thought.
Let's see. How's it going, Bankole? You're back?
Can you guys? Yeah, I'm really, really sorry. I don't know what happened here.
Well, it seems like now it seems like now there's no
Latency is good.
no lag.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well, I spent the last 40 minutes like cursing myself and everyone around me. So like,
I was wondering because you disappeared for a while, so I was like, man, he's like in this kind of purgatory situation.
Yeah, I felt like Manus was just going through different radio signals trying to find the right one. I am really sorry. Yeah,
I mean, big picture, it really doesn't matter. But I just know, as being someone who's found myself in situations like that, it's like so
nerve-wracking,
personally taxing. You're just like, why? Like everybody's doing the thing right now, and I'm just sitting here trying to figure out how to make this stupid thing work.
You can't get into the bar. The bouncer's hassling you. It's like, I want to get this.
And as you guys know, I'm feeling bad for the other creators, but also I'm feeling bad. I'm making the experience for the audience bad. So it's just like a lot of self-hatred going on. I was just like, oh my God.
All's well.
Hopefully.
I don't know if you've been following the conversation, but is there anything you wanted to say before we jump back into it?
No, a bit, but I think I'll just go on, and then I'll kind of throw in my thoughts as we move on. No need to go back.
I would like to talk, because we've talked about a lot of different stuff and not a whole lot about the actual episode so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to transition back to that, but I'm going to hit a couple of these. I've had a couple of super chats sitting here that I haven't addressed yet. So let me do that real quick. Randy Wallen, 2051. Thank you for the $4.99. Greetings from Georgetown, Texas. It's funny how there's like multiple, like Georgetown, like why is there like why do they name everything the same thing? You know what I mean? Like
there's this guy named King George, and he had a big ego.
Yeah, I guess so. Carol is simply following the edicti. Is that edict?
I think edict.
Yeah. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So this is someone who is.
Oh, what do we do when Pete himself lags?
Oh yeah, thought that was
Come
me
back to us, Pete.
Your audio cut out.
Pete, your ham radio signal's fading.
You guys can't imagine the heart attack I had just now, thinking that was me again. I was like, I was about to
take over Pete's channel. What do we want to talk about?
Well, I mean, just on this point, actually, while Pete is coming in, I did, because I was listening to what you guys talking about whether it's an act or not, and I do think Carol was fully like broken down. I don't think she was putting on an act in that final scene. I think all of that was real. I think the month-long isolation had got to her, and I think, So just back to that earlier point, I don't think it was like a plan or anything. I do think she was like fully at the end of, like you guys said, like it's torture, right? So I think she was fully broken down at that point.
Theory. I've seen a lot of people in chat saying that it's all part of the plan. She's faking. She's rope-a-doping, and I guess I just don't think Carol's that good of an actor, or she knew she's not that good of an actor, so she deliberately inflicted torture upon herself so that it would seem to be genuine because it was kind of genuine. And I'm like, man, that's levels of diabolical Machiavellian planning that I haven't seen like from her. I don't think she's the Joker.
I think by the time Carol and Menounos, that's how you say his name, by the time they meet, he'll still be very against Pluribus, and she'll kind of be like maybe a little bit more swayed towards their side, but he'll be the one that's like, no, we need to kill all of them. So I think that's kind of maybe
already. He was already more extreme than her, and then it feels like this. If this last thing is genuine and not a put on, because I admit it could be, But if it's genuine, then she has stepped a few steps closer to sympathy, or at least not outright rejection, because this guy's just a tank. He's the honey badger. He doesn't care about being rude to people. Like he was ready. Like I do believe if that dude in the truck had reached out his hand, he would have lost it to that machete. He is got a gear that even Carol, as antagonistic to the Pluribus as she has been, way over. And yeah, it's going to be wild.
I thought it was cool that early on that in the show that they said that they didn't even know about his existence for days. I just thought that was so, like, how badass are you that they didn't even know that you existed?
That implies also his relationship to the community, right? Like everyone in
yes,
this town instantly gained information, and they all kind of forgot, oh wait, where is this guy? You know? And that just really, really tells a story. And the relationship with his mother and the implied relationship with his father, and in fact, he's from Colombia and he's living in Paris. There's going to be a lot to unpack there. I'm looking forward to a lot because Vince Gilligan loves doing those flashbacks, you know, with like Gus Fring and Breaking Bad and like filling in little details, and I'm looking forward to it.
I think that's probably another parallel between him and Carol, because it's kind of like both of these people kind of hate the world in their own way. Even before Pluribus came, it seems like Carol kind of like hated everything, and then he seems like he's like this kind of hermit that hates the people, hates his own mother. So yeah, that's interesting.
You guys can hear me,
they
right?
were both not very, and they don't. That's the other thing. Ooh, I just thought of this. Is
you can't hear me?
I can hear
I can hear you kind of.
Kind of.
It's a little.
The hell.
I can hear you, but it's not the same
To the bus
quality.
stop. I think there's something interesting in the way that Carol kind of had contempt for her customers, you know, the people who read her book.
Yeah.
And you look at this guy running this storage shed is the type of manager of a service that is really a pain in the butt to deal with. You know, he treats everybody as a thief. There's no exceptions. There's, you know, it's his way or the highway, and there's no refunds, and there's all that. Like, that tells me that he has contempt for the community that he's serving as well. So there's just so many similarities that they have. Both difficult relationship with their mothers, right? You know, Carol got sent to the conversion camp, and but that's also very interesting now because Carol survived the conversion camp without breaking. Manusos survived the gap without breaking, but Carol was cracked after 40 days of essentially no contact. So many, like people say like nothing has happened in this episode, but it's like plot wise, but man, they have really laid a lot of cards down in terms of the tarot deck of these people's lives. And I think 7 episodes in, that's fantastic.
I think this episode has huge developments in this episode.
So all right, so you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. You're here.
Okay. I don't know what happened there. Like, I guess maybe
this has been a curse tonight, Pete. I got stuck in like an hour and 45 minutes of trap. Like I did not move. I got to watch the entire second half of the Colts Seattle Seahawks game sitting in and I'm like, I was telling you, it's like, man, I'm only like an hour away from my house, but like it's 2 hours and it's 2 hours from the stream, but I haven't moved in like an hour. So, and I just, and then Bankole's got it, and then now you've got it. Jeez.
Yeah. Like I said, I heard that there were some problems with streams, but I don't know if any of this is related to that or if it's just completely, because this is the first time all season that we've had issues like this. So
yeah,
we'll see. Let's get back to these because you guys were talking about a bunch of stuff that I want to hit on too. But Randy Wallen, again, a little slow, sure, but served a much better purpose than Breaking Bad's Fly episode. I don't know.
He's lucky Jim's not here.
I remember watching that episode. I remember watching that episode when it aired and liking it. I've never understood why everyone. I get that it's like it stops the plot, but it's a It's an interesting. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember.
That's the thing is Breaking Bad is a lot more pedal to the metal than anything Vince Gilligan has done since. I mean, you could argue that sometimes X-Files got to that gear too, but so every time it did slow down and become a character study, there was always, we podcasted the last 3 seasons of that. There was always a good third of the audience be like, oh, when's yeah. shoot somebody, or when's someone going to get dissolved in acid? And it's like, well, these are the episodes that make you care about the things that when that happens, right?
Exactly. Right. CT Kook 6477. Thank you. Have you guys talked about the Zosha is pregnant theory floating around out there? Yeah, I was going to bring this up earlier, but my mic decided to stop working when we were talking about that because I saw people in the chat bringing this up. So obviously we have the egg that we know, the eggs plural that we know exist. We know that there's the lawyer speak in episode 6 that makes it seem like, they can't take your stem cells, but obviously if they found a different way that they thought there was a loophole, they could take them. So what do you guys think about this theory that Zosha is pregnant, carrying one of the embryos from the eggs, and she's gonna drop a big one on Carol saying that I'm carrying you, one of your children.
Like, 6.7 ounce baby. What kind of I hate this theory.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it too.
I can't help but admit that there is some smoke here, because I thought when Zosha stepped out of that car and they kind of focused on her midsection and followed it, I'm like, am I supposed to notice that she's got this like centaur thing going on with like the curvature of her spine? And then like when I watched it the second time, I saw people talking about it. I was like, oh, maybe there is a suggestion of a baby bump here. And that would make sense, right? Because like, oh, we can't take your stem cells, but we can produce a viable offspring that has half of your DNA and then see if we can culture and study it, which is worse, arguably, I think Carol would say. But I hate it because it's kind of gross, and it's also, I don't know. It's I guess, kind of obvious, or maybe it's like, I'm not sure why it bothers me, other than
pregnancy twists are just kind of
That's what it is.
I'm not that into that.
Although this is a pregnancy twist that's never been done before in the history of pregnancy twists, so like at least there's that. It's not a Hallmark Christmas movie.
It's interesting. I feel like the pieces fit. I mean, they did mention Carol's eggs earlier. Like, why mention them if that's not going to be a part of the narrative? So I'm just like, oh God. I didn't even think about that though. I didn't even know there was a theory about Zosha being pregnant at all. I didn't notice. I missed it twice.
The thing is when they're telling you about the that they're what do they call it? That they're gatherers, that they will pick up byproduct. What do they call windfall? Windfall,
yeah.
I think that I'm assuming that you can get stem cells out of someone's eggs, in some way, or you could just
possible.
Yeah, or you could do some in vitro mixing and try to get genetic sequences or stuff like that. I just feel like they're like, well, we won't take them from you. We won't do an invasive procedure, but we absorbed your gynecologist that referred you to the egg bank, and we have these guys, and we're just going to check your eggs out, and that doesn't violate your bodily integrity, so everything's cool. I think that's what they're going with it. That'd be way cooler than baby too.
Sorry, I was just like reading that question that just popped up, because it totally is a contradiction. It absolutely, like, even just like the infection spreading itself, like they knew that a certain amount of people were going to die if they spread the infection as fast as they did. They still did it. So it goes back to what A.ron was talking about earlier. I mean, maybe when their biological imperative is threatened, then everything's off the table. Anything goes. You know what I'm saying?
There's a species of conifer that can only reproduce after a forest fire because their seed pods literally won't open until they're exposed to like 300, 400 degrees. Sucks for the forest, right? But that's how, are they like hater trees because they only flourish when other people are miserable? No, it's just the way they fit in their little niche.
Yeah. I think there's more than just one. Like that's a pretty common thing.
And also, it's not everyone. it's not also everyone. There's some ethical wiggle room of like, is it? I mean, I don't know, like because if you want to get into the pluribus's mind, you have to put about like how much factory farming and how much just farming would be abhorrent to them. So like in their ethical system, would it be better to reduce mankind by 99%? Ultimately, you'll reduce suffering in the short to long term than to allow them to continue on their way and us subjugate all these species and eat all of the plants and I don't know.
Yeah.
Strain all the plankton.
It's certainly not bulletproof. There's quite a few contradictions you can pull up. That thank you for that super chat. Bringing that up. I feel like I think the ones that are really important for the story, they'll probably explain, because I think the show's been pretty good about that, about when you're thinking like, how does this thing work? Like just sort of anticipating what questions people will be asking. Like it seems like in the following episode, a lot of times they'll hit things that, like I know from our live stream last week, we were asking questions like, how does she get gas? How does she do this? How does she do that? And like those things were directly answered in this episode. You know what I mean? So like, I think the stuff that's important for the story will show up, but I don't think that we can guarantee that there's going to be a bulletproof hard sci-fi explanation for everything and the way it works, because it's a little bit too quirky in the first place. The way that they handled it. Because like you said, like, can they cut grass? If they can't pick an apple, can they cut grass? Like, you know what I mean? Like I
feel like they're like those Buddhist monks that are always sweeping in front of them because they don't even want to step on an ant or a gnat. Like they're just like, they can't consciously. So, I mean, obviously they know they're probably killing microbes when they're walking around, but
well, yeah, then you start to get into it on that level, right? Like if you, like you can't exist without killing some stuff. I don't think
that's interesting, because that moral framework
rule of the universe.
That moral framework has an arbitrary line that they're drawing. And it's and we like, if you're a human that eats meat, you're drawing another arbitrary moral line about what you think is acceptable, because you wouldn't eat your dog, but you'd eat it. So I think it's really, a lot of times Vince is, I think, holding up a mirror and being like, what do we really feel about human connection? How do and in the other ways, he's also exploring things like, how do we really feel about cannibalism? How do we really feel about vegetarianism? How do we really how do we feel about the environment? Those are the things he's kind of drive-bying because I think it's fun to him.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that it's a little bit fast and loose is something I heard you guys talking about in your podcast too, was how is him saying you own nothing, you stole everything, like yelling at them. Why doesn't that freak them out in the way that Carol yelling at them did? Like almost seems like Carol's the only one that has that power.
The only thing is he's
because if they don't have an explanation for that, like as soon as Manousos figures that out, like he's going to go on an extinction spree, right?
I think that's actually I think they're setting him up like a Stephen King style villain, where that he will try to find ways to outrage greater levels of population and like an emotional terrorist. I don't know, like he'll try to evade detection so we can go to a different country and then go in the middle of a town square and call
the guy that they introduced us to in this episode would certainly not draw the line like the way that Carol did, right? Like we're making all these different comparisons back and forth between the characters. And one thing that she did was she felt bad whenever she killed 11 million of them. And she didn't want to keep repeating that. Mm-hmm. You give that information to Manousos,
it's a different.
He's gonna act on it quite differently.
Yeah, the risk reward analysis is completely different.
I know you're going to talk about the religious aspect of things in a little bit, but when he said that you own nothing on this planet, it struck me as like almost like a religious rebuke, like to demons or to the devil or something. He's rebuking them, right? He's saying you have no power here. You have no power over me. And it's almost certainly like setting him up as like some kind of villain or thwart to Pluribus, like almost like an opposite to Carol. This might end with Carol ultimately having to protect Pluribus from him, you know.
Yeah.
So it is very, 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 very thrilling, and I'm very much excited to see where that.
Yeah,
thread.
I mean, I think that's what I came away with this episode from the most. Like the contrast, like I think that they do. You guys have already both have sort of touched on this. Like it is interesting to think about how he's going to process if she is with Zosha whenever Manusos arrives. How will he think about that? Like, but then also like I feel like, and you brought this up in our conversations offline, A.ron, about him being a potential antichrist rather than a Christ, because the imagery is just so front and center and just so like you can't. I don't know that much about it, but I'm like, this guy's got a Christ. This guy's got like a messianic kind of thing going on here, right? So like, yeah. So that'll make you say, like, if you're watching a TV show, you'll say, well, okay, so if it's this obvious, then maybe it's something different, right? And so there is a lot of potential in that of him becoming of these two not really getting along whenever they finally meet, even though they're the only two that really understand why this stuff's so important to the other one.
There's also that social phenomenon called the what is it called? It's called like the law of small differences or law of least differences, where you find someone that has like opposite ends of a political spectrum, like a conservative and a very progressive person can talk to each other and kind of find common grounds across abstract. Because if you abstract enough, like we all care about our families and we all care about this, we call that, you can kind of find common ground. Where like two progressives or sometimes two conservatives will find like, oh, you don't think this exact, well, you're a fucking fascist, right? So I think that would be interesting that like they, it's like, well, we all want the Pluribi to die and restore humanity. And Carol's like, well, I want to do it, and he just wants to kill them all. Then they hate each other. Like I could see them hating each other more than Carol's hated the other survivors and vice versa.
Yeah,
And
I see
also,
people in the comments saying that Manusos is a fanatic or Manusos is a hero, and that's a pretty good place to be at the end of an episode where we just spent so much time with him. You know what I mean? You're not really sure.
Oh my god, when you just said that's a pretty good place to, I totally warped to Pete Pepper's video. I was like, whoa, he said the thing. Do we want to run down all the Christ metaphors that this guy is hitting?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's really quickly, because I saw somebody else made a comment about Lakshmi as well as being a better foil. So real quick, thank you for the 10, Michael Sanger 8327. Maybe another loophole. Can they use genetic material from relatives to build the new virus? Carol could have family, like the way that we understand her disconnection from her family because of the conversion camp. Like it's very possible that there are other Sturkas out there. So that's a thing. And Lakshmi's son is still alive. I think that Lakshmi would she give up her stem cells? I'm thinking no. I'm thinking the only one that we know for sure of the ones that we met was the Peruvian girl who said, I want to join the hive. It sounds wonderful to me. I want to be with my aunt and my grandmother.
I don't think she'd reject it out hand. But I don't think she's going to rush into it. Like I think
because she is just sort of like, doing the opposite of Carol. So there is that like,
well, also,
nobody gives up their autonomy like that,
Right. Well, plus it might be my bias, but I feel like if she truly were 100% sure that her child was her child, she wouldn't be that angry about Carol, because like if you're not threatened, if your identity's not threatened by someone's statement, it's not something that makes you angry. It's like whatever, or you're dealing with a child. But if you got a little bit of insecurity about that yourself, and I think that Carol kind of zinged her with and maybe she's had some doubts too, and then this gynecology stuff, like she's got to have some doubts.
That's exactly what I think. She's lying to herself about her son. There's no way, because she's a mother. She knows that her son is completely different. She can see it every single day. She can see that she's staring at something that's totally inhuman. So there's no way she doesn't know. That's why Carol pisses her off. I completely agree.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great story detail or character detail, because that a mother is the one person who has to make that kind of work in their head. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, they're different, but it's better. It's actually better because you know what I mean? The other option is that my son is dead, and an empty shell of my son that looks exactly like him is standing in front of me as a corpse and doing a complete charade, like this crazy charade, and has access to all of his memories, and like none of it is good. You know what I mean? None of that is good. You can't just say, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Let's move on with life now.
Conversely, with Carol killing her father, there's that perverse incentive that, like, well, as long as the hive is around, my boy is with my father, like in a real, very real sense. Like he hasn't gone anywhere and he's still with him. And so it's like, and that also puts her dead set against Carol, because we see how, what's driving a lot of Carol's antipathy towards the hive is the fact that she blames them for the death of her beloved wife, and Lakshmi feels that way about Carol because she, through her actions, killed one of her relatives. So there's so many interesting so many interesting reflections and juxtapositions.
Yeah. Mr. Gone the Tube, thank you for $4.99. I think that we can all agree that yes, we do think a bigger conflict with some bigger stakes is coming to take us into the second season, or will emerge at some point early on in the second season. Like I think we've covered that. We do think that something bigger will come along. A couple more here, and then we can get into the religious overtones. Shogun Orta, thank you for the 5. But has there even been enough time for Zosha to have a baby bump? I don't know. It's been
40 days,
30 days. Not much.
Trimester, she's awful thin. I feel like women that are
there's enough time for her to feel that there's something growing inside of her, but I don't know if there's enough time for us to see that there's something.
No, she'd be showing.
But am I crazy that they were emphasizing her midsection, and her midsection?
I looked at the picture and they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like I looked at the image after you said that, and it's possible, but like you said, she's thin and there's nothing overt happening there.
She also got grenaded and then injected with some kind of thing that caused her heart to stop. So like maybe she's got a little, she's been tweaked a little bit.
This individual's body is a little worn down.
Right. She got full on grenaded 40 days ago. So
yeah. Ocha Cinco, thank you for the 5. Do you think it's possible that when Manusos reach Carol, she already has joined the hive, like a total change of hero? Is that possible? I do not think that's the case. I don't think you get Ray Seahorn and create a series for her. Like that's something that Vince Gilligan has said. And then you make that kind of like Ned Stark kind of twist out of the first season. I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
It doesn't make narrative sense.
That would be a hell of a swing. But yeah, no, I don't. Or if this happens, it's going to be because the way to reverse it is trivial, and you can reverse it back, and it's going to do something to give us more information about. Because a lot of things is like that Carol's operating. A lot of us are operating in the dark. If that was a two-way bridge, like it's like, hey, you can live for a join for a day, and then kind of like the Amish give their teenagers the rum sprigga. where it's like, okay, you've lived like an Amish person until you hit puberty. Now you can have a year to explore the world, and we're not going to, judge you too much. That'd be interesting because like a lot of my moral problems with the hive would completely go away if it's like they uncontrollably hived you. You lived like a hive for a week, and then they're like, okay, we're going to release control for 24 hours, and then you can decide if you want to join us again.
Yeah.
So Carol making a jump there and back would be interesting, but not if she just goes there and stays there, I don't think.
Oh, that'd be really interesting. It reminds me of Star Trek, kind of like the Borg. It's like you can take an individual Borg and like remove it from the hive, and you still want to go back to the hive for a while, like Hugh in 7 of 9. But then eventually they'll realize that individuality is more valuable. So at least that's the idea. But maybe it's not. That's the
that's because
Vince is bringing up.
Yeah, Vince has got all these sci-fi tropes, and one of the things he says is he wants to turn them on its head. So if the Borg act that, I almost want to bet that the hive will. But it's also not interesting if you zig every time you zag.
Yeah, it's like cool to mix it up a little, so to keep us guessing. Like after a while, we'd be like, okay, so they are literally doing them all.
It's the opposite day. It's like a kid when you're opposite day. It's like
Vegan Dilemma has another one about the contradictions of the hive. Is if the goal is to build an antenna the size of Africa or anything for that matter, how can that be done without harming or displacing life? And the answer is it can't really. So it's their biological imperative, going to the top of the hierarchy, right? I think this is something that we talked about in previous streams too, about like we all have biological imperatives and needs, and they exist in a hierarchy, right? Like if you're hungry, getting food displaces all your other needs. If you're satiated and you're standing in a thunderstorm, then finding shelter goes to the top of the list. What we don't know is if there is a hierarchy involved here, or if it's just one flat biological imperative, we're going to spread. So if that's the case, then that always sits at the top. And then the other stuff is more like suggestions, we don't kill unless we have to, because it's a part of spreading. We won't take your thing without your consent unless it's threatening our spreading. You know what I mean? So I think that's a better way to think about it. Like instead of looking for different ways that you can poke holes in it, it's just that
how can you harmonize it?
Yeah. How does it actually, how does their hierarchy, the hierarchy of their imperatives relate to how we think about that for ourselves? Let's see. There's another Zosha pregnancy one. If Zosha preggy and she's carrying Carol's clone, it wouldn't be a clone. It'd be her child.
That's the. Yeah.
If that's from. That's. I mean, I thought that was the theory that they had planted one of the eggs. I guess they could also you wouldn't need to grow it inside Zosha if it was a clone. You could just do it in a vat or something.
I don't know. They have vats. Like they don't. I don't think they. But that's the thing. It's my understanding you need Carol stem cells. Like whatever baby you would have would be half Carol Sturka, half whoever you got the other half of the genetic code. It's like, and you think I might, you know how much problem it caused in Jurassic Park when they like filled 10% of that dinosaur's DNA with frogs. Imagine you take 50% of Carol's DNA and you fill it with, I don't know, Matthew McConaughey. That ain't gonna work. You're not going.
Yeah, that won't be 100%. That wouldn't guarantee 100% success.
Yeah,
but you might be able to culture stem cells from. But I don't know. I don't know how you would with half the genetic information. But also, stem cells are weird.
Yeah, I'm not.
Could they do it from your hair, like from your hair follicles?
No.
Like if they just went and got her
stem cells are like a very
DNA, but
that's DNA, but
very special thing.
Yeah, that's why they got to drill into your hip in the first place.
And I was thinking. I don't know if they can get it from like a relative, because I feel like if they could, wouldn't they have already been doing that with the other people that have relatives?
This is true, because like Carol maybe has an estranged family, or they're all dead, but like for damn sure, a lot of those families weren't that way.
Exactly. So, and I don't know how it works. I don't know if everybody has like, I guess everybody would have their independent stem cells, even if it was their child. They wouldn't be the same stem cells, like you were saying. So,
yeah. So this will be our transition into A.ron's presentation on the religious the religious overtones of the episode.
Hot
Airy
cheese.
Ozone, $4.99. Thank you for the $4.99. It strikes me that we've got nearly no backstory on Manusas, wondering what he experienced during the joining to create such antipathy in him. It's a good question. And another question I have for you two is, how does he even know, like when he says everything you have, you stole, how does he even really know who they are at this point? Like, what do you think's going on in his head as far as like how he's making sense of what's happening on the planet?
It seems like just like this spiritual repulsion. He has like this innate like spiritual repulsion. Like he views them as usurpers of the earth. I don't even think he needs to know what they are. He knows that they don't belong here. He sees them as that's how I think.
I think it does. I think it goes through goes through a religious framework, is what I think too, is that he sees them as demons. I think one of you guys already mentioned that, like, I think that this is not something that he's not getting all sci-fi about it. I think he's thinking of it in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, A.ron, now you can please help us.
I'm going to try to keep it real short.
Make sense of all of the religious overtones that are in this.
There's a lot of things that are pointing to, our man from Paraguay being a Christ metaphor, because Jesus died when he was 33 years old. Menosis was missing from the hive for 33 hours. Also, 33 is 2 3s. Jesus spent 3 days dead, before he got resurrected at the end. We also have the fact that Jesus, right after he got his mission, right after he was commissioned, after he's baptized by John, he went and wandered the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights without food and water that provide. And the devil showed up at 3 different points to tempt him. One, and there's the parable goes that he tempted him with bread and water, said, tell these stones become bread and water because you're hungry. And Jesus always rebuked him with a Bible verse. And then he said, took him up to a high place and said, hey, throw yourself off here because God will send a whole legion of angels to save you. And Jesus was like, you can't, you're supposed to test God. And then finally took him to the top of a big mountain and said, here are all the kingdoms of the earth. I'll offer them to you if you do one act of obeisance. And Jesus says, no, get away from me. And immediately after he passed that last test, it said the angels came and ministered to him to kind of strengthen him after that. So what we see is Menosis, because the way they rolled back to 8 hours or 8 days after the joining to show that him get Carol's first message. Then we join Carol 48 days later. He spent exactly 40 days wandering the wilderness. He was tempted by the Pluribi once when they came up to the mountain and offered him water and sustenance, and then said, oh, wait, there's an especially great view of like the surrounding lands up there. They tempted him. What's the other time? So there's a couple ways. If the first
temptations are really interesting to me, yeah.
Who offered him food, and then the third one is when they came and said, "Hey, we will offer to essentially take you and your boat. We'll take you right. We'll do the thing that you want us to do." He turned that down, and then when he succumbed, here's the part where I'm not quite sure how it all fits in. When he succumbed to his infections, and also noticed that he went through some passions of the Christ. Like if you look at his back and the way that Christ was scourged before he was crucified in the Christ story, there's a lot of emphasis like that. There's also the religious saint. That particular saint is I forget the one. This version of Mary was special in the Middle Ages because people thought that if you prayed, if one of your relatives prayed to Mary on the Saturday following your death on the Sabbath, that if that person's soul was in purgatory, that she could intercede for them and get them out of purgatory immediately. And I think it's super interesting that if he views all of mankind in the zombie state as in purgatory, that he follows the patron saint of getting people out of that state. So there's a lot of emphasis on there, but there's also a lot of emphasis that he might be like an opposite of Christ, Because if you go with if you don't count his mom as the first temptation, then his third temptation was when he had to be rescued, so he could have failed his third temptation. Also, Jesus, loved and cherished and honored his mother. He hates his mother. So I don't know. That's the Sunday school lesson is now adjourned. What do you guys think?
That's super interesting. Well, doesn't the book of Revelation to say that Jesus, when he returns, what is the verse? It's been a while. He comes in to bring a sword, right? He says, "I come to bring not this, but to bring a sword."
Yeah,
it's
not
basically
pizzas.
yes, that's what it is. Basically implying that that this new incarnation of Jesus is gonna, there's gonna be bloodshed. There's gonna be bloodshed. He's gonna, there's gonna be a lot of shit that happens. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I mean, I that could fit in potentially too. But I really like that. I really like that whole thing. That was really freaking awesome. Lots of really cool parallels.
Yeah, I was unfortunately trying to make somebody a mod because the chat was going a little haywire there.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think I was successful. So Randy Wallen, I think I made her. I think I figured out how to make her a moderator. So hopefully that worked. But one thing, did you guys you guys thought that, how long has it been since he left his car, and like, are the timelines lined up right now? Because when I watched it initially, I thought that maybe he had been in like a hive hospital or wherever he goes after after he collapses for like possibly up to 30 days. But whenever I've been looking at other people, it seems like they thought that he might have been, like, the timelines might be in sync, and like he collapses right before we check back in with her at 48 days.
Yeah, obviously my 40 days and 40 nights thing.
Well, yeah,
it has to revolve on that. But I also think that if you think about 100 kilometers and how far, like, and also like he's got this his car that he's taking, like how far it take to get Paraguay to the point, because it's not like you go to a super highway and then the Darien Gap. It gets progressively more and more a goat path, like you saw kind of in the episode. I think if it took him a week, because he also had to walk uphill because he ran out of gas. Let's say it took him a week, took 2 weeks to get to the south end of the Gap. 100 kilometers. Like, how many kilometers do you think he could do a day through that terrain? Like 4 or 5?
Like, kilometers not far.
Yeah, but it's 102 degrees and 98% humidity, and he has no real supplies. Like, I think that you're trying to tell a story of this being a torturous journey. So I think they're synced up. And again, I'm biased because of my Jesus story.
I will just say that I wasn't thinking about it too hard, but my interpretation while watching this was that it was synced up. I thought it was lined up. But
and then usually when there's a big when it's not, they always do the trick of the countdown and where we're at in it. So when
that's what they do when they cut from him to her. They don't actually show the time. They just say what day it is. So it is not exactly clear from that, now that I think about it. Yeah, I'll be interested to find out, because I agree with you that it's not subtle. There is a lot of religious, it's not accidental either, right? Like, this is something that they wove into their story. So it's sort of like, what are they trying to say with that? And I mean,
both have possibly religious motivated reasons to hate their mother.
Yeah. So, man, I think that I came out of the episode thinking that it's going to be this is going to set him up as a villain. Like, he looks so much like a hero. Like, there's so many people had Manusos boners after this episode.
To save the world
in the chat, and we're so on team he's going to save the world that it just feels like that's not going to work out as planned.
Yeah, I'm just really thinking about this religious angle now. Like, it's kind of set my mind on fire. I'm almost wondering if other characters in the show represent different sins or religious ideas or tropes. Like, Carol could be like pride or something, and then the casino guy could be like gluttony or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But I feel like it might go even deeper. Like if it's that many parallels, then maybe there's more to it. You know, and the hive itself, like you said, could represent, you know, purgatory or like the hordes of humanity and waiting. I don't know. There's a lot. It's really interesting.
Yeah, the hive does. That's one of the things that you told me. Like I said, I was a little distracted for your thing here, but like that's one of the things that you told me that really stuck with me was this idea of purgatory. Because if it can be reversed, then that is where the people are right now. Like if you wanted to make a religious analogy, right? They're not dead. They're not complete. Like humanity is not wiped out. It's just in a state of stasis in purgatory, waiting to see if it's going to move on to become the hive indefinitely, or if it will return to Earth to become humanity again, which is way different than how you would normally think about what happens whenever a hive mind invades a planet and takes over, right?
The whole thing.
Share a link to the version of the Mother Mary that he venerates. I'm gonna throw it in the chat here in the SteamYard if you want to share it, because I'm not sure if you want people to share links in your chat, but if people want to read up and see the different connections about you know, the sabbatical privilege and all that and the chaos, because there's even it caused a kind of schism in the church as well, which you kind of go pretty deep with this thing. So
yeah, self-flagellation is something that I've read multiple books where that's a part of, and that's just such a freaky freaky religious belief. Like you can kind of understand it from a distance, but like to actually live that way is
right.
Because I mean, I'm not religious, but I did go to Catholic school. It was sort of forced on me when I was a kid. And like it was weird because my family never really went to church. Like my grandparents were religious on my dad's side, so like that's how it happened or whatever. And so you know, like there was this disconnect because like it was like this was supposed to be an important thing, but at the same time, like we didn't do it at home, so like I just never really felt all that you know, real to me or whatever. Right. But I do, you know, like I did pick up some stuff, and like the idea of being guilty about doing a lot of stuff that you get from Catholicism anyways was its biggest influence. You know, like anytime I did something wrong, I felt like I was a bad person. Not like, rather than it just like that I needed to fix that, because it's not like everybody does that. It's just how it goes. Like try not to be a bad, you know, like try not to infringe on other people's rights and make them feel bad or whatever, you know. Instead it's just like, oh, I failed, I you know, like I, you know, whatever. But would it be self-flagellation is a very extreme version of that, right?
Well, and it's something Vince has explored too, because when we first met the cousins in Breaking Bad, right? That's how they prostrated themselves before their saint, as they crawled in the law
and their shark skin suits.
Yeah, the shark skin suits. So it's something he's kind of touched on before. Shoot, I forgot what I was going to piggyback off of that. Darn it.
Well, I was thinking about this religious connection between Menounos and the Hive and Carol. And I was thinking that with Christianity, like the whole thing that's happening in the big Christianity story, I guess, is this kind of spiritual warfare, like the war for the soul of humanity, right? And that's what we're seeing here depicted on screen. And I think Menounos is setting himself up to be like this spiritual warrior for humanity, or what he thinks humanity should be. And I think that works into your religious angle a little bit about like what this show like is really trying to say and what it's about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I
think that was a pretty clear point about where Carol was at the end, was that she was spiritually devoid without anyone else in her life. Like without the purpose of, she kind of tried it straight, right? She tried to form this investigation. She tried to take her findings to the other survivors. She tried to be the leader, and it went nowhere. So her purpose was undermined there, and you know, just fucking off and hitting golf balls into whatever and eating good meals. None of that really filled the void inside her. You know, like she's she's a person looking for a purpose. Whereas, you based on his conviction, Minusos is the opposite, right?
Right.
These kind of
oh, go ahead, Quinn.
I was just going to say that these kind of hidden religious ideas are really interesting because science fiction, it's always had this core of like these ideas about spirituality, right? It's often about like this kind of like dialectic between spirituality and techno-rationalism. And this is so old in science fiction, like way older than people even realize, going all the way back to like old religious fantastic tales that were altered by the new sciences that were cropping up. So you had this tradition, this Catholic tradition of telling these fantastic stories that involved spiritualism that suddenly had to deal with the new sciences, like telescopes and microscopes are invented at the same time, roughly. And so that is the birth of science fiction. So science fiction has always carried within it these questions that, of an existential nature, about existence, about spiritualism, about all of these things. And that's why these concepts and ideas crop up in science fiction constantly, over and over and over again. And you just think about Dune, like half of Dune is just spiritualism. And this is no different. Like, we're always using science fiction to ask questions about God, basically, and to explore God in a lot of ways, transcendence, Yeah,
and that's also why centuries later, whenever the History Channel came out, that people were ripe for ancient aliens to change all those stories, all those religious stories back into actually it was aliens,
right.
Not because they started to reject that idea that because of science that the spiritual ideas were legit. And I'm joking around, obviously, but that's a really good point about the way that this stuff all works together. And I think that's part of what I hope that, I guess, like, as far as when I think about what I hope this show can accomplish, I hope that's sort of what it is, because in a way that, as far as TV, like sci-fi TV is concerned, this feels a little bit like old timey sci-fi TV, more like Twilight Zone than The Expanse, you know what I mean? Something like that. Or even Star Trek, so like, it'd be cool if he can really mine some stuff in there that we haven't really, because I've been growing up, like, obviously watching that kind of stuff is what opened the door to sci-fi. The love of sci-fi for me was, like, I don't think I really even, like, whenever I first saw the Twilight Zones, like, I didn't really even have any notion of what I liked about them, but that was that same thing. Like, after I watched one of those, I would just be thinking about it for days, and then I would be like, same way I feel whenever I read a good sci-fi book now.
Here's my Star Trek Pluribus question. In Star Trek, right, they eventually introduced the idea of the Borg Queen, right? So you have the Borg Hive, and then you have the Borg Queen, who's kind of a part of the hive, but then she's also kind of a little bit of an individual,
an executive function
a little bit. So does Pluribus have anything like that? That'd be my question. Is there like a central group of people, or is there like a central individual? I've wondered that.
It's a good question. It's something we've talked about a bunch of times too, because it's like, you can't really tell if you think about their interactions and what they say and how they, because one of the big roadblocks to this is Carol not asking the questions in the first place, not being curious about how they work. Like, her gut reaction to want to just stop them without understanding them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that those are good questions, because whenever I was first asked this a few episodes back, I thought, well, no, it's all in there together. It's all like just one single mind. But then a commenter made a point about the executive function. Like, there has to be some sort of way that there has to be something that's controlling it, because I wasn't even sure if the individuals were in there except for as like reference materials, like, and when Robert Bailey was on here talking, because we talked about it during his episode, was about like, was there a conference going on where like different individuals were weighing different options, like in like sort of in a round table, like, well, we can't give her an atomic bomb because this is going to happen, and then there's something else. And I mean, it kind of just makes more sense that it's just mathematical and that they just run the numbers or whatever, but we really don't know, I think that's what it all comes down to when it comes to the hive at this point. But it does kind of, like, for the way we think about things, it does seem like there has to be something in charge, right?
I think that when it comes to this hive mind, it doesn't have to do a goddamn thing we think it has to. So I like the idea of, when you're saying it has to be, that's because that's our frame of reference as a conscious being that is like driving all the individual trillions of components in our body without thinking about it. But like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, that's another thing that's come up. That's come up lots of times too.
Amoebas go out and get food and reproduce and do all that thing, and they don't have more than one cell, let alone a consciousness to think of it. So it's all kinds of emergence. There's this Star Trek this week was all about emergent properties like consciousness and AI.
I watched that same episode.
I was driving to Indianapolis this weekend, and I had a long drive, so I watched it. And it's just like there's so many things that we know it's all made up of material and atoms and things like that, but like how those things all play together, we have no idea. So I like the hive mind. It's an emergent thing. It's what happens when you. But the thing that I also want to keep in mind is there's some properties of this pluribus hive that existed when it was one person. Like that one first lab tech, once she recovered from a seizure, she was very placid and happy, and already without the connection of any other hive mind, knew what she wanted to do, which is connect to another person. So there's a lot of those things. It's like it's emergent quality, maybe, but like I tend to think of them as all like network computers, and they're all little.
So if they are network computers, then that would make sense that somebody's in charge, right?
No, I don't.
Because the individuals, because we don't see there doesn't seem to be any struggle or anything going on between the individuals, or even just harmony. It seems like it acts as one.
I don't know. Like I said, I have insufficient data.
Insufficient data.
That just brings us back to what I just said a few minutes ago, huh? The bottom line is we don't know. Let me see. I got a couple of questions here, and then we'll talk about the end as we're getting close to the two-hour mark here. Chose Cinco again. Thank you for the 10. That's very generous. What do you think they'll do about Carol's eggs? Do you think she will really have a romance with Zosha? Do you think Manusos will arrive too late at one point? Like show we have Carol versus Man. I do think we touched on the eggs a little bit, that they're important, but we don't know how they're going to play in. The romance with Zosha is kind of, I feel like that. Yes,
it's already started.
Yeah, I feel like
Zosha.
We know she's got a crush on her.
Yeah, she's whenever she was under the True Serum, she said, "Yeah, this is working." They went to Tangier and found the person that would turn me on.
Proud, haughty Zosha.
Yeah, proud, haughty Zosha. Yeah, so I don't think I feel like maybe there will be maybe like you guys said, there will be a little bit of will they, won't they for a while, but eventually that's going to happen. They've been setting it up.
She absolutely could fall in love with Zosha. Like the casino guy, I think, is catching feelings for his hive mind girls. Well, I forget his name. I can't forget his name. But yeah, I think it's totally possible. Yeah. I think that like it's natural for a human being to look at another person and catch feelings, even if you know intuitively that this is like a hive mind that's a part of somebody else. Your proximity to this person, you don't have anybody else, you're already attracted to the person. Something chemically is going to happen in your brain. So
biological imperative,
it's just going to happen. So yeah. So that's what I think. I think it's absolutely going to happen, and I think it's going to create more complications and more questions. And even that might be what creates tension with Manunos, because if he puts Zosha in danger and Carol really cares about Zosha, obviously there was tension there.
So can I?
And that kind just 1 second, and that kind of goes back to the idea of the painting and the poster too, because she knows that's not Zosha. She tells everybody else in this story, like she told Diabate, that's not John Cena, right? Like she knows it's not Zosha, but how does she feel? She feels like Zosha's an individual, and you love an individual. That's just the way that it works. Like as you know,
I kind of feel like it watching the show. I just realized that. Like I kind of feel like Zosha is an individual watching the show. Like I know that they're supposed to be the same hive mind, but when I see the show, I'm like, oh, that's Zosha. She's that one.
And the actor does a terrific job of making her like an empty vessel, so that she's not an individual. But you can't help do it because it's a human thing to do, is to see people that look different and exist in space as individuals. Sorry, A.ron, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to get that part out.
Oh, I was going to go a radically different direction with the eggs, which is everyone's speculating about, the stem cells and they're going to use it in their scientific research. I said it might be interesting, or I will say it's something else that Vince might be thinking is like he knows we're all going to be going that direction because we're trying to do this puzzle box thing. But I mentioned this on a podcast, I think a week or two ago, that what this might end up being is like another low point for Carol because, obviously she froze these eggs with the hope that her and Helen could one day have a family, right? You don't do that unless that is like one of the things you've got. And then when Helen dies, that future closed. If imagine if Carol gets to a place where she could maybe see a happy spot with Zosha, and she's like, oh, also I had these eggs. We could actually start a family. We're going to make this blended hive mind individual thing work. And then she finds out that, for efficiency, the first thing we did was turned off all of the refrigerators, all of the freezing things. All the eggs are gone. All the people that are in Alcor, all the frozen heads with Walt Disney. That didn't go towards the everything. And I think that would be like another gut punch, that she'd like lost that thing and then got it, and then because the hive are the way the hive are, they took it again. So I actually think it's going to be some kind of character based emotional moment rather than a smoking gun or a magnifying glass to take down the hive. But
that's crazy. When you first started talking,
it's good. Yeah, it's a good. I follow your logic.
Thank you.
I was going to say, when you first started talking, I thought you were going to say that Carol would like have the baby and that it would come out and be like, hey mom, I'm Pluribus, and it would just be like really freaking disturbing. Right. But like what you said was even more disturbing. I was like, whoa. Yeah, so I like that. That's cool.
I also think that like there's something sinister that we haven't seen children, or specifically babies. And the one baby we did see was in the pilot, and it was almost ready to die until Carol intervened. I think that it could be that like below a certain age, humans cannot join the hive, and they just like Spartan babied all those because more mouths to feed, and they can't they can't put forth the reproductive effort. And if you look at it I think there's going to be a couple more bombs like that where we're going to be like, oh my God, just when we thought we had a reading on what the hive was and wasn't, they're going to do, like they talked us into the bodies thing. Maybe they'll talk us into the babies thing, but I think that's would really mess with people if it turns out that they just mercy killed all of the children that couldn't participate in the hive mind.
Oh my God, they givered them.
And also, I just want to point out that Vince Gilligan is a very nice guy in the podcast. He seems like an all-around very nice guy, but this dude's mind is demented when you see the stuff.
I've heard him say that. I've heard him say that before.
No,
you're such a, because he has that aw shucks kind of.
This is a dude that murdered a child and threw it into an acid bucket. This is the dude.
Yeah.
Shot another.
I've heard him say that, like saying, "Yeah, I appreciate you saying that I'm a nice guy, but it's pretty dark when I'm on my own."
Yeah,
or something along that line.
Yeah, he said in like some of the X-Files episodes that he wrote, just like he's got a dark gear.
Yeah. Noble Nudable, thank you for the $5 Canadian. What's the deal with hive reproduction? Do they even have? So this goes to what you were saying, A.ron. And if so, how does that even work? Short answer, we don't know. We have no idea.
Baby derived protein.
Do you think baby derived protein would somehow be more fortifying than HTP? Like that's like the good stuff, or maybe they can actually harvest adrenochrome. Like maybe that's the.
Well, it's a windfall, you know.
Yeah.
Another one here about the relationship. Forever Brooklyn, New York City. Thank you for the 5. If Carol seeks a romantic relationship with Zosha, will people be as critical of her as they are with Kumba Diabate? Well, it's an interesting question because can Zosha consent to this relationship? No. The answer is no.
There is no Zosha. Like
Right.
there is no real Zosha. Like that's so yeah, she can't. And I think that the framing is completely different, which is why the reaction is going to be totally different. It's framed so differently. Like it's because he has a harem.
Yeah, he has a harem.
Like Carol, like
It's
is like slowly catching feelings for somebody over time, which is like more normal and it's like a more human.
Yeah, like it's hard. No matter how you do it, it's hard to justify having your own personal harem of specifically supermodel type bodies. You know what I mean? So like that's going to be a tougher sell always. That's a very good point. One other one here. I think no. I think people will get sucked into a love story because that's kind of what we do, right? I think it'll feel different as Quinn just pointed out. So that's one more here. This one's directly for you, A.ron. Bell Pal, thank you for the $4.99. Can you speak to the ending of the Waikaro excerpt? You said you did that before when you were on.
Right. So that's the one where they released that 20-page part of the novel where Carol, the fans that couldn't stand not knowing if Raban came back or not, she gave him this tease of a chapter where it's all about the lady pirate. I forget her name. Lucatia. She had to essentially make Raban walk the plank because he was so proud and haughty and insolent that she put him in a position where she was going to compromise her chain of command if she didn't, I don't know. Like I said, it seems wild. You have to put your guy to death to do it, but she had to do it. And the whole part of this chapter, she's regretting it, and she's thinking about watching him slip through the sand. And also, for some reason, all of her crew has lost their minds, and they are no longer being productive. They're like just going and laying down in bed, and something's sapping their spirit. So she sails to this like mythical country island that has some kind of special healer that can heal any malady. And she gets off. She gets on the island, and she finds this doctor, and he heals her with what's wrong with her because she had, I don't know, she'd stumbled, she got herself injured, and she's like, "Oh, you must be the fabled doctor, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "That's great. I want you to come save my crew." And he's like, "I can't come tonight. I already have a patient." Turns out, in the other wing, Raban is sitting there, and Lucatia is so happy to see him, and she goes to, it's like, "Oh my God, Raban. And Raban said, "I'm sorry, my lady. Have we met before?" So one of the things I think we went with this, you and I talked about, Pete, is the idea that if Carol falls in love with
Zosha,
and somehow figures out a way to break Zosha out of the hive, if that's a thing that they go down,
she won't.
That Zosha that comes back out of that might not want to have anything to do with Carol, might not be attracted to Carol, might not.
Right, because if you turn her back into the individual, that individual has their own life, that they have their own things that they care about.
Right. Or the other is like, there's a way that she can maybe see if like, hey, could Zosha do a Helen impersonation to make me happy? And then she does, and Carol's able to like, then figure out how to separate that person. And then once she does, she reverts and it's no longer. I think there's something. I think they're hinting towards something like that going on, and it's got to involve Zosha. And they've already played with her losing her memory when she got drugged and all that. So I think there's something that's me speaking on it anyway.
Mm-hmm. It'd be really interesting because, like, it's kind of like you said, like Harold, you fell in love with the hive. You didn't really fall in love with Zosha, so like, who's the separated person gonna be? Yeah, that'd be that'd be good. That'd be really good. I'd like to see that.
It's also literally a Rick and Morty plot. That's what's.
Is it? Oh,
It's yeah. There's I think it's season 2 where he falls in love with Unity, which is
the planet.
Mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
But it's like I'm not besmirching it, but it is funny that such different polarities in terms of their aesthetic and how they're going about things. But at the end of the day, fall in love with the Highbind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree that like I said, I don't think it's going to turn into a love story per se. Like we're not going to watch them build a life together or something like that. So the question is how is this connection that they're building? How is that going to affect the story? How is that going to affect Carol's thinking about the hive, Carol's wanting to reverse it, and all those other things? And I think those are all interesting ways they could go.
For sure.
Let's see. We are. What do we got here that I wanted to talk about? I think as far as just my initial watch of the episode, I think what stood out to me the most was the fireworks scene and the way that she sort of was reserved to the fact that if this thing kills me, that's okay, because I can't live how I'm living anymore, right? And then when you get to that, then the question is, well, what are you willing to? Because if the idea is that the hive is inevitable, that you can't live without them, can't live with them, can't live without them for both characters, what does that mean going forward? Because like I said, I don't think that there's a situation where she changes her mind about that. So what do you think is coming up down the road?
I feel like that was very similar to in like the Dark Knight, where Harvey Dent leaves it up to chance whether he's going to kill himself in the Joker. Like, I am so morally compromised and I am so not capable of making a judgment about what's going on that, like, I'm going to let the universe decide. If the universe wants to shoot me in the face and kill me, that's fine with me. But when she survives, a change comes over her, because the old Carol a day ago would have watched her neighbor's house burn down just to do it.
I feel like that's a really important detail there.
Her coming and trying, like, oh, God, I guess I will save the world a little bit. I think that's saying that we hit a bottom of her character arc and we're about to come out of it.
And I see that's where people get the idea that she's faking, is because she does she does put the fire out. So she still wants to save the world.
But she's faking. Why would she let that thing almost shoot her in the face? That's what, like, who is that performance for?
I was going to say, A.ron, what you said made me think of Dune. It's almost like this can be like looked at as her, like, Paul Atreides flying into the storm moment, fly into the storm, and then let the universe take over. And then just, like, whatever happens, like, happens, but you have to submit to the will of the universe. And then you come out of that renewed, and or something changed. So, yeah, that's cool. I like that too. I'm obsessed with Dune.
Yeah, same. I like that too, because it's like, not only do you put your hands in the universe's fate, but that also kind of, like, absolves you from everything that happens in the future, because, well, the universe didn't want it to happen this way. They could have snubbed me out in the desert. Like, Carol could be like, well, if the universe didn't, if I was not supposed to do this, then I should have gotten shot in the face with the mortar shell.
Yeah. So maybe she has this thought that she can defeat Pluribus even by submitting to it. You know what I mean? Like, she submits to the will of the universe here, and she thinks, I'll just submit. And maybe this can somehow, like, undo itself, where I can come out of this on.
It's very Eastern way to think of it too. Like, be like water. Don't try to be rigid, flow, and it's the drop might no longer be a cloud, and might be the ocean. It might come on. It's always going to still be water. Like, even humans in a hive mind, like, now it's a different form of human, but it's still it's a very Eastern way to look at the problem, to kind of submit to that. Say, I have no control.
For sure, because she doesn't have any control, really.
She's one. I mean, that's the thing. Like 13 people are the ones that might be able to change the world. There's no scientists. There's no soldiers. There's no doctors. You know, there's no geologists. they
got good noodles if they want though. They got who makes the best udon noodles in Osaka.
A small business storage expert and a romance novelist, a self-loathing romance novelist. That is the dream team.
That's the top of the top. Yeah. Ocho Cinco had another question about something that you mentioned before, A.ron. Do you think we will have Agatha Christie sci-fi version of And Then There Were None, like all the immune joining one by one? Where is Vince going?
I said that on the podcast that because they that was what one of the books Helen was reading. Oh my God. Google Home is telling me it's time for me to go to bed, Pete. So it's going to be about that time. But shit, where was I going with this?
Agatha Christie.
Oh, yeah, I think that's because that's if you don't know what the plot of that is, if you've seen Glass Onion, you've seen it's about people being invited to an island as a part of a murder mystery, and they're picked off one by one until they're all dead. And if that's more than just Vince going wink at us, then that probably means that we are going to start seeing some of the survivors picked off, and there's going to be this sense of urgency that maybe they're going to violate our bodily autonomy, but man, we're losing more and more potential allies, and I think you're exactly right. They're going to have some kind of allusion to that.
Do we think that they're all still unjoined right now?
I think I'm surprised that the one gal wouldn't immediately, like you said, with the one that's I can't wait. I can't wait till I want to do it. I find it's weird that she wouldn't do that,
I feel like most people wouldn't want to join. I feel like most people wouldn't, because I know I wouldn't. But
it's if you can have it's like that. It's like that saying: if why buy the cow? If you get the milk for free, why? Right?
I would make them pretend to be regular people. I would try and cope with it. But the scariest thing for me the entire time would be in the back of my mind thinking that they're at all times trying to make me into one of them. At all times, they're trying to.
That overrides everything else.
Yeah.
All the other nice things they say.
Yeah. So, but I would try to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Shogun Orza says, I feel like the Christie novel is maybe only metaphorical to literally everybody being gone when Carol is alone in that part of the episode. I think it's 50-50. I think that makes sense.
That's a good take. That's a valid take. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys are doing on time, but we are hitting 2 hours, so
I need to be going sooner rather than later. But I don't have to I'll do a Bankole. I'll just be like, oh, I freezing. And this is gone. This disconnect.
I'm sure that will sting whenever he hears that. That's a bummer though.
That sucks.
Yeah, we can start to wrap it up here. I mean, that's usually about where we go is 2 hours. I'm looking at the notes and checking. If you guys
are paid chats, because we could do some super chats.
Yeah, I think we're caught up on that. That's what I was just looking at too. I think we're good on that. And so if anybody has other questions, now's the time to start trying to spam them if you want us to try to answer them. I was just looking. Another thing that jumped out when I rewatched it, I thought this is unrelated. This is just me looking at something on my notes that we didn't talk about. No great transition here, but the idea of the way that he looks, like the look on his face whenever they mention New Mexico and then say Carol Sturka, because as he's going, he's on this holy pilgrimage, and he doesn't know that they know that that's where he's going.
So creepy.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about how that would hit you and how that would hit you in the moment. You know what I mean? Like how much
For sure.
like because he just went outside. Like he spent 9 days just listening to frequencies, eating dog food. Like this is his first trip outside.
Yeah. It's an act of faith. He's going on a pilgrimage as an act of faith.
Yeah.
And if he didn't have that faith, like if that like he really got the spirit of Carol Sturka inside him whenever he was watching her tape. You know what I mean? Like I really love the way that they put that together. Yeah, like I really love the way they set that up and played that out. Mm-hmm. What else is there here? I think that's probably about what I wanted to hit on the notes. Is there anything that you guys individually want to bring up?
Just that I love this show. I'm really excited about like the last 2 episodes. We got 2 more episodes to go.
Yeah,
2 more episodes.
I wish they weren't coming out over Christmas because that's going to be a big pain in the butt. But
yeah, this is an interesting comment here. Oh wait, sorry, wrong one. It moved on me. Is it an act of faith or a crusade?
Both. Yeah, but those are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's both. It's absolutely both.
That's what I was going to say, is that things can be 2 things. You know, it's sort of like I said with her. I think she did break emotionally, spiritually. I think that the isolation, broke her spirit, but she could still try to do something through this relationship that's budding to reverse things at the same time. And I think it's with him, it's the same thing too. It's not really rational. It's a reaction to the most insane situation you can imagine yourself in. But I like it. Let's see. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so A.ron, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Talk about?
No, I think I got it all out. I can't think of any other theories or things I want to talk about.
Anything else come to mind, Quinn?
No, just that I love this show and I can't wait to see the rest of Menounos' crusade.
I'm actually curious to see how he reacts to waking up in a hospital owing these people his life. I think
he's going to freak out.
It's going to be like a violation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, with the gas, leaving the money for the gas, like there's the obvious parallel between her calling up and listening to the answering machine message for the millionth time and requesting it. But then there's the other thing there is that he does not want, like he wouldn't take, they had his mom bringing him perfectly curated meals and he chose the dog food because he didn't want to owe them anything, right?
No,
like that's the thing about this guy.
Yeah.
And now he owes them his life.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big difference. And that's one other thing that's one of the things from my notes that just popped out was this idea of the answering machine message. And it's one of the things that I heard on the official podcast that didn't really occur to me was that everybody's been asking, why hasn't she tells them whenever she wants anything changed, why hasn't she told them to change this thing? And the Jen Carroll, who wrote this episode, her thought on it is that Carol, when she in her loneliness, she actually just likes hearing somebody else talk.
Yeah, like if I've heard of people like when they lose a loved one that they keep calling their answering machine, and it's like it's jarring when that finally gets taken over by a new number or something. So I could see it used to be annoying, but now it's the only human contact she has.
I was thinking that because this entire time I've been like, I would tell them immediately, like shorten the message.
Yeah, because it's ridiculously long.
But yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, that I hadn't occurred to me that she listens to it because she likes just to hear somebody else talking.
Great take.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up, I guess. Do you want to plug yourselves one last time? I mean, you as far as people who don't know who you are, you guys are both covering the show, so you can tell them where to find that while I put your links in there one more time for them to follow right now.
All right, I'm Quinn's Ideas. I make videos about various science fiction book series, and I sometimes do live streams about TV shows, and I've been doing kind of weekly, sometimes bi-weekly live streams about Pluribus. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to be doing live streams about the next episode and the one after that. So you can totally check out my channel if you are interested in that type of stuff. And it's been great.
I recommend. I recommend that you check it out. That's for sure. I enjoy sci-fi, and I enjoy your commentary on it.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm cutting and pasting. I'm not doing a great job of hosting.
Okay.
A.ron.
And I'm A.ron. I'm part of the team podcasting over at Bald Move. Bald like my head, MOVE.com. You can find our Pluribus coverage under Pluribusin, but we also have a capture feed called Bald Move Prestige that covers this as well as other prestige sci-fi shows like Severance, for example. We're also on our Bald Move Pulp channel going to be covering shows like the Fallout that's coming out. We'll be taking on Pitt next year when it comes out. We'll be doing Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We have a huge House of the Dragon podcast. It's a lot of fun. And also we're doing a raging Christmas celebration right now too, if you want to come over and take a look at that. But yeah, go over to baldmove.com and check us out. We have a lot of fun. Pete, thank you very much. Such a gracious host and fostering such a great conversation. It's been great talking to you guys. I love
it was a lot of fun. This is, like I said, I like the way that this show makes me think, and I realize whenever I'm sitting there that I need people too. I need to talk about it after I spend a couple of days trying to write a breakdown and record that. I always have so many ideas that I want to further explore, and it's great that you guys are willing to come on and spend a couple hours talking about it with me and my viewers. So I appreciate you taking the time, especially because I'm in a different time zone, so it's early morning for me, but it's
is it really?
It's pretty late night for A.ron. You're on the West Coast though, right?
Yeah, it's getting it's about 11:15.
Oh wow.
I had family Christmas this weekend, so I'm driving both ways in a snowstorm. I'm wiped.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I do appreciate you guys coming on. A.ron, you'll be back for the finale, right?
Heck yeah, if you'll let me back on.
Yeah, I think you're on the list. And Quinn, you're always welcome to come on if you want to come on again.
Sure thing, like for the finale. If I maybe it depends on the day you're doing it, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll talk afterwards to see if that'll work out. I'm gonna tell the viewers goodbye, and then we'll wrap. We'll just like, as far as my channel, I'm definitely going to be back next week. We do this every week, and